They say she rode like a storm, red hair whipping like flame, daughters beside her, fury behind her. Her name was Boudica, and for a moment, she almost broke Rome. The stories would later make her into a symbol, a legend, a goddess of resistance. But before all that, she was a queen, a wife, a mother, and she trusted Rome. Her husband, King Prasutagus of the Iceni, had tried to play both sides, ally of Rome in life, protector of his people in death. He wrote his will to split his kingdom between his daughters and the emperor. A compromise, a safeguard. But Rome didn't honor wills. It honored conquest. When Prasutagus died, Roman officials swept in like tax collectors turned wolves. They claimed the kingdom. They looted the treasury. They mocked the idea of female succession. Then came the soldiers. They dragged Boudica out before her people. They stripped her. They flogged her. And while her screams still echoed across the fields, her two daughters, barely of age, were raped by laughing legionaries. Rome thought the lesson had been taught. But what they carved into her back that day was not obedience. It was purpose. She disappeared from Roman records after that. Months passed. The province calmed. Then came the smoke. Colchester was the first to fall. Camulodunum, the proud Roman colonia, built over sacred tribal ground, was wiped off the map. The temple to Claudius, half finished, overfunded, and hated by the locals, became a tomb. Roman settlers fled to it, barricaded the doors, and waited for reinforcements that never came. Boudica's warriors set it alight. It is said the flames could be seen for 30 miles. Governor Suetonius Paulinus was in Wales at the time, storming Druid strongholds on the island of Mona. By the time word reached him, the east had already slipped from Rome's grasp. He turned his legion south, moving fast, too fast, trying to outrun the fire. But the fire moved faster. The 9th Legion tried to stop her. One of Rome's most decorated units, battle-hardened, armored, and marching straight into history. They never made it to Colchester. Boudica's army ambushed them in the forest. Not a battle, a slaughter. The Roman commander escaped with his cavalry. The infantry didn't escape at all. Now, Boudica had momentum. Not just tribes, but entire communities were joining her. The Trinovantes, the Cornovi, the Silures. They poured out of forests, hills, farms, villages. Some came for revenge, some for freedom, some for blood. She was no longer queen of a people. She was queen of the island. Londinium was next. Suetonius got there first. He looked at the walls, the panicked citizens, the lack of defenders. He made the decision in moments. He would not defend the capital. It was unthinkable. Rome never abandoned cities. But Suetonius did. He ordered evacuation. He took only what he needed, troops, supplies, cavalry, and left the rest to fate. Boudica arrived 2 days later. The streets of London turned to rivers of flame. Roman citizens were chained, burned, crucified, or gutted in public. Women were impaled, their bodies offered to tribal gods. The Thames turned red. The markets turned to ash. The Forum was leveled. Then came Verulamium, another Roman stronghold, another firestorm. In 3 cities, more than 70,000 civilians were killed. This was no longer just a rebellion. This was an unraveling, a province tearing itself apart. Rome had faced uprisings before, but nothing like this. Now Suetonius had only one option left. He couldn't defend more cities, couldn't chase her across the countryside, couldn't fight her in the open. So he chose the battlefield, Watling Street. It was not a city, not a fortress, not even a field. It was a trap, a narrow strip of Roman-engineered road, flanked by forest and hills, with a wide plain narrowing into a bottleneck. On either side, dense trees. At their backs, supply wagons, carts, and a natural slope. There would be no retreat, no cavalry flanking, just one direction to fight in: forward. That's where he would make his stand. 10,000 Roman troops, battle-hardened, disciplined, silent, waiting. Boudica took the bait. Her army, now swollen with more than 200,000 warriors, marched directly toward the trap. They brought everything: chariots, ox carts, women, children. They were a nation on the move, a storm rolling toward the last mountain. She did not hesitate. This was her moment. The empire was cracking. The gods were watching. All she had to do was finish what she started. She would ride into history, trample Rome beneath her horses, and leave behind a Britain that bowed to no one. The path was open. The Roman line stood before her like a wall of shadows, shield to shield, formation tight. No fear, no movement. They didn't scream. They didn't chant. They didn't pray. They waited. She raised her sword and charged. What happened next would decide not only the fate of the rebellion, but the fate of Britain itself. What happened next would remind the world why Rome, for all its cruelty, was never easily broken. To understand what happened at Watling Street, to understand why 200,000 warriors could not break 10,000 men, we must now enter the iron heart of Rome itself. We must understand the weapon that does not bleed, does not rage, does not burn, the one that never flinches. Discipline. Watling Street was not built for war. It was built for permanence. A Roman road, dead straight, stone-laid and unflinching, it sliced through the wild heart of Britain like a scar carved by empire. But on this day, it would become something else entirely. A crucible, a bottleneck, a final stage for two worlds about to collide. The trees on either side leaned in like spectators. The wind held its breath. The soil, churned by hooves and sandals, waited to drink. Suetonius stood atop a ridge just behind the formation, his black cloak snapping in the wind like a warning. 10,000 men waited below him. Not a mob, not a crowd, but a machine. Cohorts were arrayed in a wedge, narrow in front, wider behind. Shield to shield, shoulder to shoulder. Helmets gleamed dully in the pale light. Javelins were braced, pylons designed to bend on impact so they could not be thrown back. The legion did not sing, it did not chant, it did not speak, it listened. Somewhere in the distance, a low roar began to rise, a sound like thunder trying to remember how to be human. Boudica was coming. She did not march like an army. She surged, a tidal wave of bodies and wheels and war cries. Her chariots clattered like bones tossed by angry gods. Behind them came warriors daubed in woad, eyes burning with vengeance. Behind them, families, wagons, tents, cattle, tools, entire villages on the move. It wasn't an army. It was a civilization unchained. And yet, Suetonius smiled. He had seen this before, not in Britain, but in Mauritania, in Gaul, in Germania. The great mistake of the desperate, to believe that rage could replace order. He rode along the Roman line, his horse careful not to disturb the locked shields. He didn't shout, he didn't rouse. His men needed no fire, only the ice of precision. When they break, he said to one centurion, don't pursue. When they scream, he said to another, advance. At the far end, he stopped beside his cavalry commander. We hold, Suetonius said. Then we crush. The commander nodded. And if we don't hold? Suetonius looked out at the horizon, where the dust cloud of the oncoming horde was now fully visible. Then we die perfectly. Boudica stood atop her war chariot. pulled by two stallions draped in red and bronze. Her daughters clung behind her, knuckles white on the rim of the car. Before her, the Roman line looked absurdly small. 10,000 ants in formation, a crack to be stepped over. She turned to her warriors and raised her arms. The wind caught her hair like flame, and for a heartbeat, she looked more myth than mortal. "They think we fear them," she shouted. "They think this road is Rome's, that this island is theirs. But you are the blood of Albion, of giants, of kings, of gods. Look behind you, your mothers, your wives, your children. Look before you, men who would take them all." The warriors roared. Spears were raised, shields were beaten. The sky cracked with war drums and curses. "Today," she screamed, "we send Rome home in pieces." And they charged. The front line surged forward, chariots first, their blades spinning, their drivers howling. Then came the spearmen, then the axemen, then the mob. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, a human flood. The Roman line did not move. At 60 yards, Suetonius gave the signal. Pylons flew. They did not arc. They struck. Hundreds, thousands. Chariots collapsed mid-spin. Horses shrieked and fell. Warriors tumbled. The momentum of the charge stuttered. But it did not stop. Then the Britons hit the line. The impact was a sound no poet could describe. Metal on bone, flesh on iron, screams swallowed by shields. It was not a clash, it was an absorption. And still the Roman line did not break. Centurions called orders like drumbeats, every shield held, every gladius struck. The wedge began to push forward, not wildly, but deliberately, like a hammer inside a wall. Boudica's warriors couldn't spread. The forest penned them in. They couldn't retreat. Their own wagons and families clogged the rear. Those behind didn't know the front was dying. They kept pushing forward, ramming bodies into blades. The narrow defile worked like a vice. Rome was turning chaos into compression. One British war chief screamed at his men to flank. He turned toward the woods, only to find Roman auxiliaries hidden there. Javelins met him, arrows, steel. The flanks were sealed. There was nowhere to run. From the back of the field, Boudica saw her lines faltering. She screamed, willed, begged the gods. She raised her sword and charged down the hill herself, crashing into the melee. She fought like fire, like fury made flesh. Her daughters stayed close, throwing stones, screaming curses. But even fury could not shift formation. The Roman wall moved forward with the patience of a glacier, cutting, pressing, smothering. A rebel tried to leap over a Roman shield and was caught mid-air by a gladius in the gut. Another screamed in Celtic and bashed his axe into a helmet, only for a second soldier to slit his throat before he landed the second blow. The Britons were brave. But bravery dies when pressed against silence that does not break. By the third hour, the screams had changed. They were no longer of rage. They were of realization. The ground became slick with blood. Horses stumbled, warriors fell and could not rise because there was no room to fall. A Roman horn blew. Cavalry swung around the rear, trampling the confused wagons and encircling what was left. By now, there was no formation, only slaughter. It was not a battle. It was a culling. Some Britons dropped weapons and screamed for surrender. Some ran. Some threw themselves under the hooves. Some fought with their bare hands, weeping as they did. Boudica vanished in the chaos. Some say she was dragged from the field by her guards. Some say she poisoned herself rather than be paraded through Rome in chains. Others say she lived in secret, a ghost haunting the forests. It didn't matter. The rebellion had ended. When the dust cleared, 80,000 Britons were dead. The road was slick with history. The trees would not grow right for decades. Roman casualties, fewer than 400. Suetonius stood atop the same ridge where the battle had begun. His armor was spattered with blood that wasn't his. His eyes swept the battlefield like a man studying a ledger. A centurion approached and said, "We've won." Suetonius shook his head. "No," he said. "We've reminded them who we are." Behind him, the legions reformed. They cleaned their blades. They ate in silence. Not one of them sang. Because for Rome, this was not glory. This was necessity. The kind that builds empires. The kind that buries rebellions. The kind that doesn't need a monument to be remembered. Watling Street would remember for them. And it wasn't over. News would soon reach Rome. The emperor would ask questions. Nero, that theatrical shadow of a man, would wonder aloud if Britain was still worth the cost. Whether Suetonius should be replaced, whether a message should be sent. But the only message that mattered had already been carved into the land itself. Rome had taken Britain, and now it would keep it. Not because it deserved it, but because no one left was strong enough to stop it. The tribes would never unite again. Not after this. And somewhere beneath the bodies, beneath the soil, beneath the road, Rome's secret weapon still lingered. Not a sword, not a chariot, not a flame. Discipline. Cold, calculated, unflinching, and eternal. By the time the sun set on Watling Street, the battlefield was silent. Not quiet, silent. The kind of silence that settles when the earth itself goes numb. Nothing moved. Not the crows, not the wind. Just the smoke curling from broken wagons and the occasional scrape of Roman iron over bone. 80,000 Britons dead. The greatest uprising Rome had ever seen, extinguished in a single afternoon. What had begun as vengeance, righteous, furious, sacred, had ended in entrapment, panic, and slaughter. Boudica was gone, vanished into history. The Roman scouts searched for her chariot among the bodies, but found only blood and fragments of wheel. Some claimed she drank poison rather than be paraded through Rome in chains. Others whispered she had escaped, that she still rode in the woods, red hair flickering in the mist like the ghost of resistance itself. But legends do not change outcomes. The rebellion was crushed. The survivors fled to the hills, the forests, the shadows. Rome didn't need to hunt them. Rome had made its point. Across the empire, the news spread like fire. In Gaul, in Hispania, in the halls of the Senate, the whispers turned to awe. 10,000 had stood against 200,000 and prevailed. Because they were Roman, not perfect, not merciful, but precise, relentless, patient. Because while Boudica's army had fought with fury, Rome had fought with a system. Discipline wasn't just a tactic, it was an inheritance. From the phalanx to the cohort, from Etruscan steel to imperial resolve. It had built aqueducts, carved roads, raised walls, and ruled nations. And on that nameless British ridge, it had destroyed a rebellion that should have consumed the island. Watling Street was never paved with marble. It wasn't carved into triumphal arches or etched into epic poems. But it didn't need to be, because every military academy would study it. Every commander would learn from it. Every rebel would remember it. In the aftermath, Nero hesitated. The scale of the uprising had shaken him. He considered abandoning the province altogether. Let Britain return to its tribes and ghosts. Let it burn. But Suetonius remained. He punished what was left. Executions, sieges, sanctions. The 9th Legion, humiliated and bloodied, was never the same again. The governor was eventually recalled, but not forgotten. Rome rebuilt what Boudica had burned, rebuilt it in stone, in order, in Latin. and the tribes never united again, not because they didn't want to, but because the memory of what had happened at Watling Street made them pause. Discipline had done what fire could not, and what survived of Boudica became something else entirely. A legend, a symbol, a woman who defied empire, not because she thought she would win, but because she couldn't bear to kneel. Her rage echoed through centuries, through queens who bore her name, through poets, through statues, through rebellions yet to come. Because sometimes, the people who lose the battle shape the memory far more than those who won it. And sometimes, the sword that doesn't swing is the one that matters most. So when you think of the great empires of history, their armies, their conquests, their monuments, remember this. What made Rome truly dangerous wasn't its size. It was its silence under pressure, its stillness in the face of chaos. It was the weapon that Boudica never saw coming: discipline. That's the story of how Rome's secret weapon destroyed Boudica's army, and why one battle changed the fate of Britain forever. If this story moved you, made you think, or taught you something new about history's brutal turning points, don't let it end here. Like if you felt Boudica's rage. Comment if you stand with rebellion or with order. Share this with anyone who loves forgotten legends. Subscribe for more cinematic stories from history's blood-stained pages. Because this was only one battle, and history is full of many more. We'll see you at the next one.